Now, I've gone on record saying that comics, whether they're from the East or the West, is the greatest media of all time. Movies, television, video games included. I will admit there's this teensy caveat, and what that is that there's a 50-50 split on how much you enjoy the work. And what I mean by that is that there's what the artists and the writers put in front of you, what's officially on the page that you see with your eyes, and then there is the audience component where it's like we have to put in some work ourselves, and the amount of work we put into it is how much we will enjoy what we're reading. For example, you have to remember that these are static images on the screen, and because of that, we as an audience member, using our brains, we have to fill in these gaps. Maybe there's like an impact frame missing, maybe we see somebody flying, maybe there's a certain, like how somebody moves from panel to panel. We kind of have to fill that in. Maybe we also like put in music in our heads, maybe we have a certain voice that goes for a character, maybe you have a certain dialect for them, mannerisms, stuff that isn't even confirmed. We kind of project what we feel should be onto the medium itself. We kind of have our own sort of headcanon, and that's how we really immerse ourselves in these characters and in these stories, right? But because of that, there is some work, and that work is what keeps comics and manga and stuff like that as a whole not as mainstream as a movie or a television or whatever that other sort of mediums I brought up before are. It makes it harder for people to stay with it, because I have to admit, like as an outsider, it would be hard just to like tip your toes into like the comic book space. Everything kind of relies on you, and also there's the writing styles too. There's certain writing that's like no matter what, whatever it is, the writing is so good you're gonna be engaged. You also have to keep in mind that there's the more creative, psychedelic, maybe just unique types of writing styles that kind of take a while to immerse yourself into. Maybe you're just not feeling it, and depending on your mood, you might have to read it multiple times. You might just completely call it trash just because you just can't engage with it. I know, like for a writer, Grant Morrison, for example, comes to mind. Grant Morrison, I love their work, but the problem is that for some people, because of the way they write, you have to fully read it over and over and over again, or maybe you just don't meld with it and you just can't survive the winter. I don't know what to tell you. You're just Gart. No, I'm joking. But like, it's these types of things that make it just harder, because their type of writing is something that, if produced in like a television show where it's like all these things moving, people would love it more because there's some great action scenes in that too. But as a reader, you just have to put in more effort. But I've said this before, comics as a whole allows writers and artists to do whatever their mind allows them to do, right? Whatever they're capable of, right? It gives you an unlimited budget to do things that $100-200 million films would have to pay their creators to make all these CGI things, right? You can just, with a good pen, a good inker, a good, good colorist, you can create masterpieces in front of your eyes on a piece of physical paper. That's the beauty of comics. And furthermore, if there's more like the creative aspect of it, there's writers that fully take advantage of the medium. I've seen this more with American comics and manga. Feel free to let me know down below if you have any sort of like suggestions for what I'm about to say. But there's like Batman, the New 52 run by Scott Snyder during the Court of Owls arc. I remember, in a way to like simulate Batman's insanity as he was going through the Court of Owls, their maze, you had to completely flip the book around multiple times just to read the speech bubbles, because if you looked at the page normally, the speech bubbles would be literally backwards and you couldn't read it. I know recently with Absolute Martian Manhunter that just came out last week, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it was, what a great book. But there's this one panel at the very end where it's like, if you put the panel in front of some sort of light source, you will see this sort of like transparency that happens on the page, and because of that, you'll see a silhouette of the Martian Manhunter behind John Jones, right, the police officer, and that's just so sick to me. And there's the Terrifics book with Mr. Terrific, of course, and Plastic Man, Metamorpho, Phantom Girl, and in that book, one of their issues, there was this choose your own adventure type of format where it's like all the panels are numbered and you have to follow these instructions to kind of move your way and traverse through the comic, right? Maybe you go through panel 1. Let's look at this. Panel 1, maybe it's like, if you do this, then it'll lead to panel 8 and then panel 12, and whatever it is, these decisions in and of itself will either lead to your death or actually progressing through the comic. And that is so sick. I don't know if it's just me that thinks about this, but like, that's just so cool because these are the ways that artists get you to like, I've told you there's a 50-50 like split, and this is the way that artists and writers kind of like make it like, I don't know, 70-30 or something, right? How they get you to fully immerse just by reading it. You have to immerse yourself and get into the minds of these characters just to read the book. I love when writers literally force the audience to take part in whatever story they're trying to tell. Post-Production Matrix here, just stopping by to say that over 95% of you guys are not subscribed. Please, if you do, it would really help the channel out a ton. That's all there is for me right now, and yeah, on with the video. Either way, what I really wanted to get into in this video is the public perception of comics right now and kind of some of the relatable issues I guess some of us have. And I want to know what you guys have down below. Like maybe if you have some sort of story, some sort of pet peeve you have with comics as a whole, something you might just want to get off your chest or share with the community, feel free to link it down below. I'm down to read it. I'm sure everyone else would like to know as well. So, public perception for comics, but specifically American comics, have been kind of rough. If you look at manga, people consider manga way easier to get into. If you go to like the bookstore, you'll see that mangas are like formatted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see the volumes like that. You a literal vegetable themselves would be able to get through a manga pretty easily if they have all the volumes in front of them. Simple enough. There's one creative team, blah, 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 blah. There you go. Comics, people through word of mouth, right, and people who aren't actually comic readers saying this, people have this perception that it's hard to get into comics. Now, I have a call to action for you to do. I'm assuming you're in front of a phone, computer, whatever that may be. What I want you to do, type. What you're going to type is best indie comics. There you go, top 10. And that's going to give you a sense of getting your feet wet into this medium because it's more like the mangas that people are like used to. It's a single creative team for the most part, and it's one story from issue 1 to issue 100. It's one singular story by that same author, and once it's finished, it's done. It's a complete ending. What you see is what you get. And people have to stop looking at comics as they're just from the big two, from Marvel and DC. There is a whole world of comics people are just not getting into because they think that it doesn't exist for some reason. But we very well know it does. Like Invincible at the moment is probably the most popular indie comic. But there's also stuff like Spawn. People are familiar with Spawn, Savage Dragon, Witchblade, what else? Coda, Saga, Radiant Black, Dawn Runner, The Savage Shores, I'm pretty sure is one of them. That Texas Blood, I think it was. I forgot what it was. Chris Condon made a really great comic that I read not too long ago. I'll put it on the screen that you guys can read. But there's all these things that there's a big world that people can get into, but they just don't want to take that step because they're just unfamiliar. They don't know. But if you even want to get into the mainstream like big two comics, all you have to search up is their best comics, right? If you have a favorite character, start there. Favorite character, say it's Batman, my glorious king. Say it's Batman, and then you search up best comics. What are you gonna get? Year One, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and all that sort of stuff. And you could start there, or you could just search up comics to start with for that character, or you could just search up best comics in general and just choose what looks interesting to you. And like on top of that, there are renumberings. DC and Marvel like to do renumberings, so they start at a new number 1. And what that means, it's kind of like a signifier. It's like they're throwing a little bait. They're trying to get new people into comics through this number 1 issue. And it usually works because they have the highest sales for that issue. But what it is that it essentially means that there's going to be a new creative team, a new writer, a new direction, and you won't really have to know anything else when you get into it. It's a new story. Simple as that. What you see, as I've said before, is what you get for these types of comics. And of course, there's going to be some sort of continuity, but they will fill you in as you go. Or if they don't, it's not going to be that confusing. Trust me, I've read a lot of number 1 issues for like, I don't know, the Hulk. The Immortal Hulk was my first Hulk comic, and I had no issues. Granted, I did have prior knowledge for like the cartoons. I also knew some things about like what happened in like the Peter David and Greg Pak runs, mainly because it's so ingrained in the mainstream through big like videos that people have made or just through adaptations. I've also like researched myself. I like researching these things. If I'm not going to be like doing a full-on binging, I do like reading up on these things before I get into something, but you really didn't need it, right? They hold your hand, they drag you through the story, right? They pull you along for the ride, and I enjoyed it. But let's get more into those relatable issues, shall we? First one, hiatus. You know, like with things like Vagabond or like hiatus. I mean, Hunter x Hunter. But like these things absolutely grind my gears. I know usually it's for like medical reasons, or maybe the writer's head aren't really in the game, or whatever that is. Like, I would rather them take a break than to write slop, but that always presses me, just because what if I'm just like really into an arc and they just finish it preemptively, or they just leave us hanging for like half a decade? Like, what do you mean by that, sir? I'm trying to get some food here. Come on, please. Like, these are the things that absolutely, I don't know if I'm gonna, yeah, let's talk about it. Long breaks. I don't know about you guys, but like, I have moments where it's like I take complete long polar bear hiatuses from comics just because of certain things, like hiatuses from things like tie-ins. Oh my goodness, tie-ins. Like when you have like a big like crossover event in Marvel and DC, like let's say there's Civil War event or a Absolute Power or I don't know, Blackest Night. If I'm reading my Batman or my Superman or my Flash or whatever it may be, and I see these tie-in issues that like are supposed to connect to that big event, my brain just turns off because I just don't want to read it. But as somebody who goes on these pretty long binge streaks, that I've even recently, I was just reading all of Batman from post-Crisis to the present, right? I've already read the post-Infinite Crisis area to the present, but I want to familiarize myself with the 1987 all the way to around the 2000s. That's where my knowledge is lacking. I wanted to get into that space because I just love Batman and all these characters, right? And because of that, I'm a completionist. And I don't want to read these tie-in issues, but I also feel like, what if there's something important in this tie-in issue that's important for the character development going forward, and I'm just going to miss it? Granted, if it's one issue, I don't really have a problem with it, but if it's really connected to that crossover event, and I have to read that crossover event, and I didn't plan on doing so, that shuts my brain off. It's even worse when they completely hijack your book for like 3, 4, 5 issues. Just to tell that crossover story. Do you know 3, 4, 5 issues in comics terms? That is almost half a year, my guy. That's what gets me. I'm not insane in thinking this. Please tell me I'm not the only one. There's also like endings. What also gets me to hibernate is endings. Things like, I don't know, Jujutsu Kaisen or Attack on Titan. When something ends so horribly that it completely ruins what happened in the past, or it makes you, I've always said this before, I'm one of those journey not destination type of people. So if the journey was peak and the destination was say mid, I'm still fine of calling that series really good. Some people, it completely ruins the experience if the ending is not good, and that's completely fine. But when books have things or endings that are supposed to completely turn what's been written before, the things that you've read before, on its head, or to have some sort of twist, that's when I could see why something like that can completely just ruin your mental in terms of like the media you just read, especially if you're really into it, right? Or if it's something that's so trash that's like, why did I waste my time? That's even worse, honestly. But like the Jujutsu Kaisen and like Attack on Titan situation I was talking about before, dude, when Eren was tweaking in the manga and Armin saying that stupid, okay, let me stop myself. I'm not gonna spoil this video. I am not gonna spoil anything, just because of how much I hate that stuff too. Spoiling is what gets me. People who spoil prevent me from reading stuff that I want to read. I have this long list. Tell me if anyone has this too. I have this long list of comics that I want to read that I for sure know that I'm not going to read for like, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years. But I have hope. I have hope that I will get it done. But I'm also going on these breaks as well, as much as I love comics. I really want to read like Jed McKay's Moon Knight, like to its entirety, because he keeps on renumbering it, right? I want to read it and get into that, but then I'm like, he keeps on giving me number ones. I don't like this. Why do you keep on changing the series when it's once the same storyline? You're gonna get writers and people confused, and you're gonna get the audience confused, right? Because I'm literally telling you, I just told you before, he's making me look like a fraud, bro. Jed McKay is making me look like a fraud with the amount of times he renumbers Moon Knight for it just to be a recontinuation of the previous storyline. That's, dude, and what makes it worse is that not only is it a recontinuation, they do this for the purpose of just getting more money. Because new number one sell better. Like, why are you doing this? You're making it so that the new number one sells better, but the amount of times you make it a new number one, you're making it so that the fall off in money decreases even more so with every issue going forward. Why do you do this? Please, somebody tell me. What else? New writers. New writers is... Okay, this is one of the things that I've always said. One of the 3 things that will get me really hyped is 1... I'm in my hot spot. I'm in this little sweet spot where it's like, this is the moment where I'm reading peak, one of the best runs in that character's history. That's one of the great things. 2 is when a new writer-artist team comes on, and 3 is when I have to read additional books like a Young Justice, like a Teen Titans, just to keep kind of keep up with my favorite characters, because I wouldn't have read that book otherwise, but these books are also great, right? New writers and artists are great, but it's absolutely horrible once I see like a writer come in and they totally disregard what happened in the past, or they completely character assassinate the character that I'm reading to the point that people start hating him. That's what's been happening to Spider-Man for the past 10 years. They did that to Nightwing, Tom Taylor, and like whoever did the Rick Grayson arc. That was like 5-6 years of horrible Nightwing, to the point that people have been calling my GOAT a fraud. How could they do this to me? Thankfully, Dan Waters came in clutch and is giving him peak again. But dude, being a Nightwing fan for like most of the 2010s, the late 2010s, was absolute hell. But we made it through and we got peak on the other side. Spider-Man fans, they will never... They're starving, bro. They haven't seen water or food in probably a millennium. And I'm sorry, I completely separated myself from Spider-Man. I love that character to death, but I cannot bring myself to care about him any longer until they get a new good writer, which is insane to say because Spider-Man's my second favorite superhero of all time. But comics, man, they really do things to you. As Jack Kirby the King said, they will break your heart sometimes. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you have anything down below? This is more of a tangent type of video, or a rant video, I guess. But I just want to, I don't know, this is something I haven't really tested before, and maybe you guys will relate to it more. Maybe it's something that you guys like. Maybe you guys want me to do more of these in the future. But either way, guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. Drop any sort of like story or pet peeve or interesting things that you have down below. And yeah, see you all later. Take care.